Hey everybody, it's Jimmy T or Jim Turk from BeatMyDisease.com. I hope you've enjoyed all these free videos in the series and that you're seeing some benefit from them. Today I'm going to talk about the first O in control, and that's for outlook. You can also think of optimism, but I think overall outlook is a big deal. And the reason we're going to talk about it, and the reason it's so important, is because outlook is proven both in papers. I always talk about papers, literature, whatever, but it's also, there's books written on the subject about how a better outlook, increased optimism, improves your lifespan, your healthiness, your happiness, decreases viral load in students about to take a test, decreases cardiovascular risk, all those things. It's just kind of all over the board. And if you're like me, nobody wants an infection like flu or cold or whatever, but it's 10 times worse when you have some other disease. So if it's a secondary thing, it's even worse. So I guess what I'm going for is, I'm going to do, personally, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that from happening, or to keep that from happening. And I would expect that you will as well. And that's kind of what I want to show you how to do and give you some examples. So we talk about outlook. Really, a good way to think about it is just looking at the positive side of things. So, for example, if you're thinking about golf, you could play a whole round of golf and you could have a lot of good shots. Say you had, 10 really good shots, but maybe you had 7 pars or something like that, or birdies, and then you hit one really shank one totally, it goes into the rough, and that's what you remember. And a lot of people will hang on to that for the rest of the game, if not the rest of the day. And so that creates a lot of internal stress, and a lot of people don't want to admit to it, but again, there's books written on the subject. So you want to avoid that, keep that from happening, because hanging on to that anger and that stress increases your likelihood for disease. It increases your likelihood for just not having a happy life, for not getting along with people. It creates a situation where you only look at the bad, you only see the bad. And so a lot of times I'll talk about creating an environment, kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where if you're only looking at if you're focusing on the bad, that's all you're going to see, and that's what you're going to actually look for. And so it kind of comes down to whatever you want to see, that's what you'll find. And so if you decide that you want to look for the bad stuff, you're going to find the bad stuff, and that's bad for your health, bad for your quality of life. I would just really encourage you not to do that. Some examples, a lot of times you think about road rage, that's a pretty standard example. Not a lot of people, I think, hopefully, have had a true experience with road rage where somebody gets so mad they're going to get out of their car and they're going to beat you up or punch you, or who knows what they're going to do. Well, I had that situation happen to me, and I was surprised. I didn't know what to do. This was a few years ago. I was taking my dog back home from the vet, and he's a good dog. He was happy. He was in the front seat, but big and going nuts. And so there I am, trying to drive out of the vet parking lot, and I have to do a right angle. I have to take a left turn. I have to go into another parking lot before I can turn onto the street. Well, I did that, and it was clear when I did that I followed all the rules, but somebody turned in from the street, and they made it very clear to me that they were going to try to come really close without hitting me, just to prove to me that I had done something wrong. And there I am, not knowing what to do. I made the turn, my dog's going nuts next to me. It's like, what the heck do I do? I'm just worried about my dog going nuts and getting out of there. But of course there's a lot of traffic on the street, so I can't drive on. The guy stops right next to me and gives me a look like he wants to kill me. And I'm like, dude, seriously, I just drove out of the vet. I'm not really looking for anything to happen. And he's looking at me this way, and so I just kind of looked at him like this, like, a question, sort of, what do you want me to do kind of look. And he slammed on the brakes, and he was going to come out. I don't know what he was going to do, but I was kind of scared, but I also wasn't going to get out of the car, not only for my own safety, but because we're on a busy street and my dog's going nuts, next to me. So what do you do? Well, he starts then going in reverse. And I'm thinking, okay, well, does this guy have a gun, or what's going to happen here? I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm stuck. And he keeps going in reverse, and he's locked in on me, and he backs into somebody coming up off the street. He actually crashed into somebody else because he was so angry and focused on me. And I'm thinking, well, that's karma for you. That's me not getting angry about the situation, and he got into an accident with somebody else while he wanted to take his anger out on me. He couldn't. And so, I felt bad about that situation, but on the other hand, I was happy. Hopefully he learned a lesson, right? He decided he was going to be all angry and take it out on me and focused on me, and then he backs into somebody else. And so that was a good experience for me, because it really taught me, or confirmed, that don't bother dealing with people that there's not enough time. It's not worth it to deal with somebody who has anger issues and wants to take that on you. Let them, for example, get into an accident with somebody else. And so that's what I did. And so that was my kind of road rage story. It's like when you're driving on a car, somebody cuts in front of you, or somebody wants to cut in front of you, and a lot of people will speed up because they don't want that to happen. They want to keep that from happening. I do just the opposite. I let them cut in front of me, because I'm always kind of thinking, I don't want this person behind me or next to me. I want them to get as far ahead of me as they can, so that if something happens, if they decide to be a nut somewhere else and get into an accident, I'm not involved. And so that's kind of how I look at it. There's a lot of other situations. If somebody is always chronically looking at the bad side of things, they always look at the bad side. As I said, you'll always find what you're looking for. Just do what you can to try to look at the positive. If somebody decides that they want to be in a bad mood or say something bad to you, try to put a spin on it in your own head. Think about what's their goal. If you think about what their emotions are, what's their emotional goal? It really kind of takes the edge off, and it really makes you look at what's happening differently, even though they might not be able to handle it right. It empowers you, and it makes you feel better, and it stresses you out less to have that happen throughout the day. So I would really encourage you to do that as well. So again, you're talking overall, if you're looking at the positive and trying to look at the positive, trying not to sort of concede to the bad things. Don't let those bad things happen. Don't get drawn into a fight or a peeing match, I guess I'll say, even though that's probably not too PC. But it's true. I mean, you don't want to get drawn into that stuff, because it just makes you look bad, makes you feel bad, and it makes you treat everybody around you bad, and then they treat you bad and you feel worse. It's, again, a self-fulfilling prophecy. You want to build that environment and treat everybody nicely, and they treat you back. What you give is what you get, and it really sort of creates this environment where people are always happy around you eventually. I mean, that's really what we're going for here. And then eventually, it's just a happier situation overall for you to be involved in. So I would encourage you to do that. I want you to do that. Again, a lot of research, a lot of books have been written about the fact that if you don't succumb to stress, if you don't succumb to anger, if you lead a happier life, you have a lower viral load, for example. So that's like standard viruses that are in everybody, or a lot of people, like herpes virus, herpes simplex, cold sore things, or something like that. A lot of people have those things sitting latent. Flu viruses, cold viruses, stuff that's commonly spread around. It's the load on the people. It tends to be lower if they're happy, especially before exams, when the tendency would be to get really stressed out. They might be a lot lower. Again, much lower cardiovascular risk. This is something we know. This is something that's written about. much healthier, happier, lower cancer risk, all this kind of stuff, all just because you're happier. It's not easy to do, I can tell you, because our culture is chronic stress. We're always stressed about things. Try to limit that. Try to always look at the positive. Try to come up with stress reduction techniques. Try to get enough sleep. All the other kinds of things in the control program that we talk about is all geared towards reducing stress and reducing that viral load, reducing your likelihood of getting a secondary infection. But the bigger picture, it improves your chances of healing. So we're again trying to create a situation where we increase the good feel-good hormones like oxytocin, lower stress hormones like maybe cortisol, epinephrine, that constant fight or flight response. You know, we were built to run away from lions or hunt our food or whatever, and we have this fight or flight response, and that's okay in very small doses. The problem is in a chronically stressful environment, we have these all the time, and so our body has sort of adapted. We have to deal with this all the time, but it's hard in terms of disease. It's hard on our bodies, hard on our health. So really try to lower that. Try to increase the good hormones, lower the bad hormones as much as you can. Just create a situation, an environment where you're much healthier and happier. If you're happier, you're going to be healthier. That's just kind of how it works. Again, you feel good for a reason, and you want to be in a situation where you're feeling good, secreting those happy, healthy hormones, and I would encourage you to do that. So again, we're talking about outlook, about looking at the positive side of everything, not to get drawn into the anger, to the stressful situations, and you know, I guess, you know, until next time, I hope that does something for you. I hope you're able to at least put a piece of that to work. You know, it's going to take a while to get all these things to work and to become that person and to build that environment that we were talking about around you, that self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's going to happen if you work at it. And so I just want you to work at it. And all these things are kind of stepwise. Again, they're small pieces to a bigger control puzzle, and I think we can do a lot to improve our well-being. So again, thanks. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below. I'm happy to respond to your emails as well if you want to send me an email, but you can leave a comment below the video as well, and I'll try to respond to as many as I can. So again, until next time, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're getting some value out of this free video series. It's Jimmy T, or Jim Turk, from BeatMyDisease.com. Thank you very much.